Good afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Tuesday with Tennyson. Today we'll be reading the tale of Guinevere. Um, so, just waiting for my own sound check to kick in. There it is. That was my sound check. I'm going to chill for a moment, see if anybody shows up for the beginning, just out of, I don't know, courtesy, in case anybody wanted to hear the tale of Guinevere from the beginning. But because I'm reading a story, if you join late, hey Jess, what's up, buddy? For those of you who join a little bit late, since it's just a reading, you can back up a few minutes and hear the whole story, but still participate in the chat. You can even speed it up a little bit. Hey, Alchemos, we're just going to read Guinevere today. Nothing major, nothing too exciting. But a nice story break for anybody who needs one. Plumbing and electrical today, huh, Jess? It's going to rain here, so I'm stuck inside. There will be no gardening today. Unless the rain clears up quickly and I want to go play in the mud, which I might do. Good. Get your work done, Alchemos. Allow me to entertain you with a story for a short while. I don't think this one's very long. Let's find out. I'm going to go ahead and begin. Guinevere. Queen Guinevere had fled the court and sat there in the holy house at Almesbury weeping, none with her save a little maid, a novice. One low light betwixt them burned, blurred by the creeping mist for all abroad, beneath the moon unseen, albeit at full. The white mist, like a face-cloth to the face, clung to the dead earth, and the land was still. For hither had she fled, her cause of flight, Sir Modred, he that like a subtle beast lay couchant with his eyes upon the throne, ready to spring, waiting a chance. For this he chilled the popular praises of the king with silent smiles of slow disparagement, and tampered with the lords of the White Horse, heathen, the brood by Hengist left, and sought to make disruption in the Table Round of Arthur, and to splinter it into feuds, serving his traitorous end. And all his aims were sharpened by strong hate for Lancelot. For thus it chanced one morn when all the court, green suited, but with plumes that mocked the May, had been their wont, a Maying and returned, that Modred, still in green, all ear and eye, climbed to the high top of the garden wall to spy some secret scandal if he might, and saw the queen who sat betwixt her best Enid and lissome Vivian, and her court, the wiliest and the worst, and more than this he saw not. For Sir Lancelot, passing by, spied where he couched, and as the gardener's hand picks from the coleworts a green caterpillar, so from the high wall and the flowering grove of grasses, Lancelot plucked him by the heel, and cast him as a worm upon the way. But when he knew the prince, though marred with dust, he, reverencing king's blood in a bad man, made such excuses as he might, and these full knightly without scorn. For in those days no knight of Arthur's noblest dealt in scorn. But if a man were halt or hunched in him by those whom God had made full-limbed and tall, scorn was allowed as part of his defect, and he was answered softly by the king and all his table. So Sir Lancelot helped to raise the prince, who rising twice or thrice full sharply smote his knees, and smiled and went. But ever after, the small violence done rankled in him and ruffled all his heart, as the sharp wind that ruffles all day long a little bitter pool about a stone on the bare coast. But when Sir Lancelot told this matter to the queen, at first she laughed lightly to think of Modred's dusty fall, then shuddered as the village wife who cries, I shudder, someone steps across my grave. Then laughed again, but faintlier, for indeed she half foresaw that he, the subtle beast, would track her guilt until he found, and hers would be forevermore a name of scorn. Henceforward rarely could she front in hall or elsewhere Modred's narrow foxy face, heart-hiding smile, and grey persistent eye. Henceforward, too, the powers that tend the soul to help it from the death that cannot die, and save it even in extremes, began to vex and plague her. Many a time for hours, beside the placid breathings of the king, in the dead night, grim faces came and went before her, or a vague spiritual fear, like to some doubtful noise of creaking doors, heard by the watcher in a haunted house that keeps the rust of murder on the walls, held her awake, or if she slept, she dreamed an awful dream, for then she seemed to stand on some vast plain before a setting sun, and from the sun there swiftly made at her a ghastly something, and its shadow flew before it, till it touched her, and she turned, when lo, her own, that broadening from her feet and blackening, swallowed all the land, and in it far cities burnt, and with a cry she woke. And all this trouble did not pass, but grew, till even the clear face of the guileless king and trustful courtesies of household life became her bane. And at last she said, O Lancelot, get thee hence to thine own land, for if thou tarry we shall meet again, and if we meet again some evil chance will make the smouldering scandal break and blaze before the people, and our lord, the king. And Lancelot ever promised, but remained, and still they met and met. Again she said, O Lancelot, if thou love me, get thee hence. And then they were agreed upon a night, when the good king should not be there, to meet and part forever. Passion pale they met and greeted, hands in hands and eye to eye. Low on the border of her couch they sat, stammering and staring. It was their last hour. A madness of farewells, and Modred brought his creatures to the basement of the tower for testimony, and crying with full voice, Traitor, come out, ye are trapped at last, aroused Lancelot, who rushing outward lion-like, leapt on him and hurled him headlong, and he fell stunned, and his creatures took and bare him off, and all was still. Then she, The end is come, and I am shamed forever. And he said, Mine be the shame, mine was the sin, but rise and fly to my strong castle over sea. There will I hide thee till my life shall end, there hold thee with my life against the world. She answered, Lancelot, wilt thou hold me so? Nay, friend, for we have taken our farewells. Would God that thou couldst hide me from myself. Mine is the shame, for I was wife, and thou unwedded. Yet rise now and let us fly, for I will draw me into sanctuary, and bide my doom. So Lancelot got her horse, set her thereon, and mounted on his own. And they rode to the divided way, there kissed and parted weeping, for he passed, love loyal to the last wish of the queen, back to his land. But she to Almesbury fled all night long by glimmering waste and weald, and heard the spirits of the waste and weald moan as she fled, or thought she heard them moan. And in herself she moaned, too late, till in the cold wind that foreruns the morn, a blot in heaven, the raven, flying high, croaked, and she thought, He spies a field of death, for now the heathen of the northern sea, lured by the crimes and frailties of the court, begin to slay the folk and spoil the land. And when she came to Almesbury, she spake there to the nuns, and said, Mine enemies pursue me, but O peaceful sisterhood, receive and yield me sanctuary, nor ask her name to whom ye yield it, till her time to tell you. And her beauty, grace, and power wrought as a charm upon them, and they spared to ask it. So the stately queen abode for many a week unknown among the nuns, nor with them mixed, nor told her name, nor sought, wrapped in her grief, for housel or for shrift, but communed only with the little maid, who pleased her with a babbling heedlessness which often lured her from herself. But now, this night, a rumour wildly blown about came, that Sir Modred had usurped the realm, and leagued him with the heathen, while the king was waging war on Lancelot. Then she thought, with what a hate the people and the king must hate me, and bowed down upon her hands, silent, until the little maid, who brooked no silence, brake it, uttering, late, so late, what hour, I wonder now? And when she drew no answer, by and by, began to hum an air the nuns had taught her, late, so late, which when she heard, the queen looked up and said, O maiden, if indeed ye list to sing, sing, and unbind my heart that I may weep, whereat fully willingly sang the little maid. Late, late, so late, and dark the night and chill, late, late, so late, but we can enter still. Too late, ye cannot enter now. No light had we, for that we do repent, and learning this, the bridegroom will relent. Too late, ye cannot enter now. No light, so late, and dark and chill the night. Oh, let us in, that we may find the light. Too late, ye cannot enter now. Have we not heard the bridegroom is so sweet? Oh, let us in, though late, to kiss his feet. No, no, too late, ye cannot enter now. So sang the novice, while full passionately her head upon her hands, remembering her thought when she first came, wept the sad queen. Then said the little novice, prattling to her, O pray you, noble lady, weep no more, but let my words, the words of one so small, who knowing nothing knows but to obey. And if I do not, there is penance given. Comfort your sorrows, for they do not flow from evil done. Right sure I am of that. Who see your tender grace and stateliness, but weigh your sorrows with our Lord the King's, and weighing, find them less. For gone is he to wage grim war against Sir Lancelot there, round that strong castle where he holds the queen, and Modred, whom he left in charge of all, the traitor. Ah, sweet lady, the king's grief for his own self, and his own queen, and realm, must needs be thrice as great as any of ours. For me, I thank the saints, I am not great. For if there ever came a grief to me, I cry my cry in silence, and have done. None knows it, and my tears have brought me good. But even were the griefs of little ones as great as those of great ones, yet this grief is added to the griefs the great must bear. That howsoever much they may desire silence, they cannot weep behind a cloud, as even here they talk at Almesbury about the good king and his wicked queen. And were I such a king with such a queen, well might I wish to veil her wickedness, but were I such a king, it could not be. Then to her own sad heart muttered the queen, Will the child kill me with her innocent talk? But openly she answered, Must not I, if this false traitor have displaced his lord, grieve with the common grief of all the realm? Yea, said the maid, this is all woman's grief, that she is woman, whose disloyal life hath wrought confusion in the Table Round, which good King Arthur founded years ago, with signs and miracles and wonders there at Camelot, ere the coming of the queen. Then thought the queen within herself again, Will the child kill me with her foolish prate? But openly she spake and said to her, O little maid, shut in by nunnery walls, what canst thou know of kings and tables round? Or what of signs and wonders but the signs and simple miracles of thy nunnery? To whom the little novice garrulously, Yea, but I know the land was full of signs and wonders ere the coming of the queen. So said my father, and himself was knight of the great table at the founding of it, and rode there too from Lyonnesse, and he said that as he rode, an hour or maybe twain after sunset, down the coast, he heard strange music, and he paused, and turning there, all down the lonely coast of Lyonnesse, each with a beacon star upon his head, and with a wild sea light about his feet, he saw them, headland after headland, flame far into the reach heart of the west. And in the light, the white mermaiden swam, and strong man breasted things stood from the sea, and sent a deep sea voice through all the land, to which the little elves of chasm and cleft made answer, sounding like a distant horn. So said my father. Yea, and furthermore, next morning, while he passed the dim-lit woods, himself beheld three spirits mad with joy come dashing down on a tall wayside flower, that shook beneath them, as the thistle shakes when three grey linnets wrangle for the seed. And still at evening, on before his horse, the flickering fairy circle wheeled and broke, flying, and linked again, and wheeled and broke, flying, for all the land was full of life. And when at last he came to Camelot, a wreath of airy dancers, hand in hand, swung round the lighted lantern of the hall, and in the hall itself was such a feast as never man had dreamed, for every knight had whatsoever meat he longed for served by hands of unseen. And even as he said, down in the cellars merry bloated things shouldered the spigot, straddling on the butts while the wine ran. So glad were spirits and men before the coming of the sinful queen. Gonna light a smoke. Hi, Joe. What's up, my brother? Hi, Ants. Nice to see you both today. I hope you're enjoying the tale of Guinevere. It's not necessarily an upbeat one, but most of these tales of Arthur and his knights are pretty human, full of bull honkery. Then spake the queen, and somewhat bitterly, were they so glad? Ill prophets were they all, spirits and men, could none of them foresee, not even thy wise father with his signs and wonders, what has fallen upon the realm. To whom the novice garrulously again, yea, one, a bard, of whom my father said, full many a noble war song had he sung, even in the presence of an enemy's fleet, between the steep cliff and the coming wave. Damn, I'm sorry, this book is falling apart. It's really hard to hold on to. It's just coming apart at the seams. Yep, there it goes. And many a mystic lay of life and death had chanted on the smoky mountain tops, when round him bent the spirits of the hills with all their dewy hair blown back like flame. So said my father. And that night the bard sang Arthur's glorious wars, and sang the king as well nigh more than man, and railed at those who called him the false son of Gorlos. For there was no man knew from whence he came. But after tempest, when the long wave broke all down the thundering shores of Bude and Bowes, there came a day as still as heaven, and then they found a naked child upon the sands of dark Tintagel by the Cornish sea, and that was Arthur. And they fostered him till he by miracle was a proven king, and that his grave should be a mystery from all men like his birth. And could he find a woman in her womanhood as great as he was in his manhood, then, he sang, the twain together well might change the world. But even in the middle of his song he faltered, and his hand fell from the harp, and pale he turned, and reeled, and would have fallen, but they that stayed him up, nor would he tell his vision. But what doubt that he foresaw this evil work of Lancelot and the queen. Then thought the queen, lo, they have set her on, our simple seeming abbess and her nuns, to play upon me, and bowed her head, nor spake. Whereat the novice, crying with clasped hands, shame on her own garrulously, said the good nuns would check her gadding tongue full often. And, sweet lady, if I seem to vex an ear too sad to listen to me, unmannerly, with prattling and the tales which my good father told, check me too, nor let me shame my father's memory, one of the noblest manners, though himself would say Sir Launcelot had the noblest. And he died, killed in a tilt, come next, 5 summers back, and left me. But of others who remain, and of the two first famed for courtesy, and pray you check me if I ask amiss, but pray you, which had noblest while you moved among them, Launcelot or our Lord the King? Then the pale queen looked up and answered her, Sir Launcelot, as became a noble knight, was gracious to all ladies, and the same in open battle or the tilting field, forbore his own advantage, and the king in open battle or the tilting field forbore his own advantage, and these two were the most nobly mannered men of all. For manners are not idle, but the fruit of loyal nature and of noble mind. Yea, said the maid, be manners such fair fruit? Then Launcelot's needs must be thousandfold less noble, being, as all rumor runs, the most disloyal friend in all the world. To which a mournful answer made the queen. O closed about by narrowing nunnery walls, what knowest thou of the world and all its lights and shadows, all the wealth and all the woe? If ever Launcelot, that most noble knight, were for 1 hour less noble than himself, pray for him that he scape the doom of fire, and weep for her who drew him to his doom. Yea, said the little novice, I pray for both, but I should all as soon believe that his, Sir Launcelot's, were as noble as the king's, as I could think, sweet lady, yours would be, such as they are, were you the sinful queen. So she, like many another babbler, hurt, whom she would soothe, and harmed where she would heal. For here a sudden flush of wrathful heat fired all the pale face of the queen, who cried, Such as thou art be never maiden more for ever. Thou their tool, set on to plague and play upon, and harry me, petty spy and traitress. When that storm of anger brake from Guinevere, aghast the maiden rose, white as her veil, and stood before the queen as tremulously as foam upon the beach stands in a wind, ready to break and fly. And when the queen had added, Get thee hence, fled frighted. Then that other, left alone, sighed, and began to gather heart again, saying in herself, The simple, fearful child meant nothing, but my own too fearful guilt, simpler than any child, betrays itself. But help me, heaven, for surely I repent. For what is true repentance but in thought? Not even in inmost thought to think again the sins that made the past so pleasant to us. And I have sworn never to see him more, to see him more. And even in saying this, her memory from old habit of the mind went slipping back upon the golden days in which she saw him first, when Launcelot came, reputed the best knight and goodliest man, ambassador, to lead her to his lord Arthur, and led her forth, and far ahead of his and her retinue moving, they, wrapped in sweet talk or lively, all on love and sport and tilts and pleasure, for the time was Maytime, and as yet no sin was dreamed, rode under groves that looked a paradise of blossom, over sheets of hyacinth that seemed the heavens upbreaking through the earth, and on from hill to hill, and every day beheld at noon in some delicious dale the silk pavilions of King Arthur raised for brief repast or afternoon repose by couriers gone before, and on again, till yet once more, ere set of the sun, they saw the dragon of the great Pendragon ship that crowned the state pavilion of the king, blaze by the rushing brook or silent well. But when the queen immersed herself in such a trance, and moving through the past unconsciously, came to that point where first she saw the king ride toward her from the city, sighed to find her journey done, glanced at him, thought him cold, high, self-contained, and passionless, not like him, not like my Lancelot. While she brooded thus and grew half guilty in her thoughts again, there rode an armed warrior to the doors. A murmuring whisper through the nunnery ran. Then, on a sudden cry, "The king!" she sat, stiff-stricken, listening. But when armed feet through the long gallery from the outer doors rang coming, prone from off her seat she fell, and grovelled with her face against the floor. There, with her milk-white arms and shadowy hair, she made her face a darkness from the king, and in the darkness heard his armed feet pause by her. Then came silence, then a voice, monotonous and hollow like a ghost's, denouncing judgment, but though changed, the king's. "Liest thou here so low, the child of one I honored, happy dead before thy shame? Well is it that no child is born of thee. The children born of thee are sword and fire, red ruin, and the breaking up of laws, the craft of kindred and the godless hosts of heathen swarming over the northern sea, whom I, while yet Sir Launcelot, my right arm, the mightiest of my knights, abode with me, have everywhere about this land of Christ in 12 great battles, ruining overthrown. And knowest thou now from whence I come? From him, from waging bitter war with him. And he, that did not shun to smite me in worse way, had yet that grace of courtesy in him left. He spared to lift his hand against the king who made him knight. But many a knight was slain, and many more, and all his kith and kin clave to him, and abode in his own land. And many more, when Modred raised revolt, forgetful of their troth and fealty, clave to Modred, and a remnant stays with me. And of this remnant will I leave a part, true men who love me still, for whom I live to guard thee in the wild hour coming on, lest but a hair of this low head be harmed. Fear not, thou shalt be guarded till my death. Howbeit I know, if ancient prophecies have erred not, that I march to meet my doom. Ooh. Thou hast not made my life so sweet to me that I, the king, should greatly care to live. For thou hast spoilt the purpose of my life. Bear with me for the last time while I show, even for thy sake, the sin which thou hast sinned. For when the Roman left us, and their law relaxed its hold upon us, and the ways were filled with rapine, I don't know, here and there, a deed of prowess done redressed, a random wrong. But I was first of all the kings who drew the knighthood errant of this realm and all the realms together under me, their head, in that fair order of my table round, a glorious company, the flower of men, to serve as model for the mighty world, and be the fair beginning of a time. I made them lay their hands in mine and swear to reverence the king. I'm sorry. Get here. To reverence the king as if they're conscious, and they're conscious as their king. To break the heathen and uphold the Christ. To ride abroad, redressing human wrongs. To speak no slander, no, nor listen to it. To lead sweet lives in purest chastity. To love one maiden only, cleave to her, and worship her by years of noble deeds until they won her. For indeed I knew of no more subtle master under heaven than is the maiden passion for a maid, not only to keep down the base in man, but teach high thought, and amiable words, and courtliness, and the desire of fame, and love of truth, and all that makes a man. And all this throve until I wedded thee, believing, lo, mine helpmate, one to feel my purpose and rejoicing in my joy. Then came thy shameful sin with Lancelot. Then came the sin of Tristram and Isolde. Then others, following these my mightiest knights, and drawing foul ensample from fair names, sinned also, till the loathsome opposite of all my heart had destined did obtain, and all through thee, so that this life of mine I guard as God's high gift from scathe and wrong, not greatly care to lose, but rather think how sad it were for Arthur, should he live, to sit once more within his lonely hall, and miss the wonted number of my knights, and miss to hear high talk of noble deeds, as in the golden days before thy sin. For which of us, who might be left, could speak of the pure heart, nor seem to glance at thee? And in thy bowers of Camelot or of Usk, thy shadow still would glide from room to room, and I should evermore be vexed with thee in hanging robe or vacant ornament, or ghostly footfall echoing on the stair. For think not, thou, though thou wouldst not love thy Lord has wholly lost his love for thee. I am not made of so slight elements, yet must I leave thee, woman, to thy shame. I hold that man the worst of public foes, who either for his own or children's sake, to save his blood from scandal, lets the wife whom he knows false abide and rule the house. For being through his cowardice allowed her station, taken everywhere for pure, she, like a new disease, unknown to men, creeps, no precaution used, among the crowd, makes wicked lightnings of her eyes, and saps the fealty of our friends, and stirs the pulse with devil's leaps, and poisons half the young. Worst of the worst, that man he that reigns, better the king's waste hearth and aching heart, than thou reseated in thy place of light, the mockery of my people and their bane. Ooh, damn. Told her. He paused, and in the pause she crept an inch nearer, and laid her hands about his feet. Far off a solitary trumpet blew. Then, waiting by the doors, the war horse neighed, as at a friend's voice, and he spake again. Yet think not that I come to urge thy crimes. I did not come to curse thee, Guinevere, I, whose vast pity almost makes me die to see thee, laying there, thy golden head, my pride in happier summers, at my feet. The wrath which forced my thoughts on that fierce law, the doom of treason, and the flaming death, when first I learned thee hidden here, is past. The pang, while I weighed thy heart with one too wholly true to dream untruth in thee, made my tears burn, is also past in part. And all is past, the sin is sinned, and lo, I forgive thee, as eternal God forgives. Do thou, for thine own soul, the rest. But how to take the last leave of all I loved? O golden hair with which I used to play not knowing, O imperial moulded form, and beauty such as never woman wore, until it came a kingdom's curse with thee. I cannot touch thy lips, they are not mine, but Lancelot's. Nay, they never were the king's. I cannot take thy hand, that too is flesh, and in the flesh thou hast sinned, and mine own flesh, here looking down on thine polluted, cries, I loathe thee. Yet not less, O Guinevere, for I was ever virgin save for thee. My love through flesh hath wrought into my life so far that my doom is, I love thee still. Let no man dream, but I love thee still. Perchance, and so thou purify thy soul, and so thou lean on our fair Father Christ. Hereafter, in that world where all are pure, we two may meet before high God, and thou wilt spring to me and claim me thine, and know I am thine husband, not a smaller soul, nor Lancelot, nor another. Leave me that, I charge thee, my last hope. Now must I hence. Through the thick night I hear the trumpet blow. They summon me their king to lead mine hosts. It's a sad story. Far down to that great battle in the west, where I must strike against the man they call my sister's son, no kin of mine, who leagues with lords of the white horse, heathen and knights, traitors, and strike him dead, and meet myself death, or I know not what mysterious doom. And thou remaining here wilt learn the event. But hither shall I never come again, never lie by thy side, see thee no more. Farewell. And while she grovelled at his feet, she felt the king's breath wander over her neck, and in the darkness over her fallen head, perceived the waving of his hands that blessed. Then, listening till those armed steps were gone, rose the pale queen, and in her anguish found the casement. Peradventure, so she thought, if I might see his face and not be seen. And lo, he sat on horseback at the door, and near him the sad nuns with each a light stood, and he gave them charge about the queen, to guard and foster her for evermore. And while he spake to these, his helm was lowered, to which for crest the golden dragon clung of Britain. So she did not see the face, which then was as an angel's, but she saw, wet with the mists and smitten by the lights, the dragon of the great Pendragon ship blaze, making all the night a steam of fire. And even then he turned, and more the moony vapor rolling around the king, who seemed the phantom of a giant in it, enwound him fold by fold, and made him grey and greyer, till himself became as mist before her, moving ghost-like to his doom. Then she stretched out her arms and cried aloud, "O Arthur!" There her voice breaks suddenly, then, as a stream that sprouted from a cliff fails in mid-air, but gathering at the base remakes itself, and flashes down the vale, went on in passionate utterance. "Gone, my lord, gone through my sin to slay and to be slain, and he forgave me, and I could not speak. Farewell? I should have answered his farewell. His mercy choked me. Gone, my lord the king, my own true lord, how dare I call him mine? The shadow of another cleaves to me, and makes me one pollution. He, the king, called me polluted. Shall I kill myself? What help in that? I cannot kill my sin. If soul be soul, nor can I kill my shame. No, nor by living can I live it down. The days will grow to weeks, the weeks to months. The months will add themselves and make the years. The years will roll into the centuries, and mine will ever be a name of scorn. I must not dwell on that defeat of fame. Let the world be. That is but of the world. What else? What hope? I think there was a hope, except he mocked me when he spake of hope. His hope, he called it. But he never mocks, for mockery is the fume of little hearts, and blessed be the king who hath forgiven my wickedness to him, and left me hope that in mine own heart I can live down sin, and be his mate hereafter in the heavens before high God. Ah, great and gentle Lord, who wast, as is the conscience of a saint among his warring senses, to thy knights, to whom my false voluptuous pride, that took full easily all impressions from below, would not look up, or half despise the height to which I would not, or could not climb. I thought I could not breathe in that fine air, that pure severity of perfect light. I wanted warmth and color which I found in Lancelot. Now I see thee what Now I see thee what thou art. Thou art the highest and most human too, not Lancelot nor another. Is there none will tell the king I love him though so late? Now, ere he goes to the great battle, none. Myself must tell him in that purer life, but now it were too daring. Ah, my God, what might I not have made of thy fair world had I but loved thy highest creature here? It was my duty to have loved the highest. It surely was my profit had I known. It would have been my pleasure had I seen. We needs must love the highest when we see it, not Lancelot nor another. Nor another. Here her hand grasped, made her veil her eyes. She looked and saw the novice weeping, supplicant, and said to her, Yea, little maid, for am I not forgiven? Then glancing up beheld the holy nuns all round her weeping, and her heart was loosed within her, and she wept with these, and said, Ye know me then, that wicked one, who broke the vast design and purpose of the king. O shut me round with narrowing nunnery walls, meek maidens, from the voices crying shame. I must not scorn myself. He loves me still. Let no one dream but that he loves me still. So let me, if you do not shudder at me, nor shun to call me sister, dwell with you. Wear black and white, and be a nun like you. Fast with your fasts, not feasting with your feasts. Grieve with your griefs, not grieving at your joys. But not rejoicing, mingle with your rites. Pray and be prayed for. Lie before your shrines. Do each low office of your holy house. Walk your dim cloister, and distribute dole to poor sick people, richer in his eyes who ransomed us, and haler too than I, and treat their loathsome hurts, and heal mine own, and so wear out in alms deed and in prayer the somber close of that voluptuous day which wrought the ruin of my lord the king. She said, they took her to themselves, and she still hoping, fearing, is it yet too late? Dwelt with them till in time their abbeys died. Then she, for her good deeds and her pure life, and for the power of ministration in her, and likewise for the high rank she had borne, was chosen abbess. There an abbess lived for 3 brief years, and there an abbess passed, to where beyond these voices there is peace. Well, that was a real fucking bummer. Excuse my mouth. All these stories end in bummers. What are you going to do? Such is our lot. So I don't know, I just found something stuck to my book. That took 43 minutes approximately. And the next is so short that I think I'm going to take a very quick toiletry break and come back, and we will read The Passing of Arthur because it is super, super short. Excusez-moi for one moment. Enjoy the background and a moment of silence for poor dear Guinevere. I have returned. Lovely grape juice. Hello, JJ. Glad you joined us for story time today. I was able to catch some of y'all's stream yesterday. That whole box saga thing's freaking me out. Okay. So, light them up. Smoke them if you got them. For we are about to read The Passing of Arthur. I'm going to take just a moment and see if I can prop my book up a little bit. I still haven't fixed my book easel, and this book is literally falling apart. I'll prop it up on my iPhone. I'm almost done with it. Isn't it dope? It's going to be super cool when I finish it. We'll see what happens. Okay, help me out here, iPhone. Hold up the book. Yeah, after yesterday, you probably need a smoke and like a little brain cleansing, like wash those images out. Man, I was wondering what all the fuss was about when that was like trending, you know what I mean? Like everybody was talking about it, and then I peeked. Oh, my stars and garters. What the French? All right. The Passing of Arthur. That story, which the bold Sir Bedivere first made and latest left of all the knights, told, when the man was no more than a voice in the white winter of his age, to those with whom he dwelt, new faces, other minds. Before that last weird battle in the west, there came on Arthur sleeping, Gawain killed in Lancelot's war, the ghost of Gawain blown along a wandering wind, and past his ear went shrilling, Hallo, hallo, all delight. Hail, King, tomorrow thou shalt pass away. Farewell, there is an isle of rest for thee, and I am blown along a wandering wind, and hallo, 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 all delight. And fainter onward, like wild birds that change their season in the night and wail their way from cloud to cloud. Down the long wind the dream shrilled, but in going mingled with the dim cries, far in the moonlight haze among the hills, as of some lonely city sacked by night, when all is lost, and wife and child with wail pass to new lords. And Arthur woke and called, Who spake? A dream. O light upon the wind, thine, Gawain, was the voice. Are these dim cries thine, or doth all that haunts the waste and wild mourn, knowing it will go along with me? Ooh. This heard the bold Sir Bedivere and spake, O me, my king, let pass whatever will, elves and the harmless glamour of the field, but in their stead thy name and glory cling to all high places like a golden cloud forever. But as yet thou shalt not pass. Light was Gawain in life, and light in death is Gawain, for the ghost is as the man. And care not thou for dreams from him, but rise. I hear the steps of Modred in the west, and with him many of thy people and knights once thine, whom thou hast loved, but grosser grown than heathen, spitting at their vows and thee. Right well in heart they know thee for the king. Arise, go forth, and conquer as of old. Then spake King Arthur to Sir Bedivere, Far other is this battle in the west, whereto we move, than when we strove in youth, and thrust the heathen from the Roman wall, and shook him through the north. Ill doom is mine to war against my people and my knights. The king who fights his people fights himself. And they, my knights, who loved me once, the stroke that strikes them dead is as my death to me. Yet let us hence, and find or feel a way through this blind haze, which ever since I saw one lying in the dust at Almesbury hath folded in the passes of the world. Then rose the king and moved his host by night, and ever pushed Sir Modred league by league back to the sunset bound of Lyonesse, a land of old up heaven, from the abyss by fire, to sink into the abyss again, where fragments of forgotten peoples dwelt, and the long mountains ended in a coast of ever-shifting sand, and far away the phantom circle of a moaning sea. There the pursuer blah, blah, there the pursuer could pursue no more, and he that fled no further fly the king. And there, that day when the great light of heaven burned at his lowest in the rolling year, on the waste sand by the waste sea they closed. Nor ever yet had Arthur fought a fight like this last, dim, weird battle of the West. A death-white mist slept over sand and sea, whereof the chill, to him who breathed it, drew down his blood till all his heart was cold with formless fear. And even on Arthur fell confusion, since he saw not whom he fought. For friend and foe were shadows in the mist, and friend slew friend, not knowing whom he slew. And some had visions of golden youth, and some beheld the faces of old ghosts look in upon the battle. And in the mist was many a noble deed, many a base, and chance, and craft, and strength in single fights, and over and anon with host to host shocks, and the splintering spear, and hard mail hewn shield breakings, and the clash of brands, the crash of battle axes on shattered helms, and shrieks after the Christ of those who falling down looked up for heaven and only saw the mist. And shouts of heathen and the traitor knights, oaths, insults, filth, and monstrous blasphemies, sweat, writhings, anguish, laboring of the lungs in that close mist and crying for the light, moans of the dying and voices of the dead. Last, as by some one deathbed after wail of suffering, silence follows, or through death or death-like swoon, thus over all that shore, save for some whisper of the seething seas, a dead hush fell. But when the dolorous day grew drearier toward twilight falling, came a bitter wind, clear from the north, and blew the mist aside, and with that wind the tide rose, and the pale king glanced across the field of battle, but no man was moving there, nor any cry of Christian heard thereon, nor yet of heathen, only the wan wave break in among dead faces, to and fro, swaying the helpless hands, and up and down tumbling the hollow helmets of the fallen, and shivered brands that once had fought with Rome, and rolling far along the gloomy shores the voices of days of old and days to be. Then spake King Arthur to Sir Bedivere, and whiter than the mist that all day long had held the field of battle was the king. Hearest thou this great voice that shakes the world and wastes the narrow realm whereon we move, and beats upon the faces of the dead, my dead, as though they had not died for me? O Bedivere, for on my heart hath fallen confusion, till I know not what I am, nor whence I am, nor whether I be king. Behold, I seem but king among the dead. Then spake the bold Sir Bedivere, my king, king everywhere, and so the dead have kings. There also will I worship thee as king. Yet still thy life is whole, and still I live who love thee. But who hates thee? He that brought the heathen back among us. Yonder stands Modred, unharmed, the traitor of thine house. Then spake the king, my house hath been my doom, but call not thou this traitor of my house, who hath but dwelt beneath one roof with me. My house are rather they who swear my vows, yea, even while they break them, owned me king, and well for thee, saying in my dark hour, when all the purport of the when all the purport of my throne hath failed, that quick or dead thou holdest me for king. King am I, whatsoever be their cry, and one last act of kinghood shalt thou see yet ere I pass. And uttering this, the king made at the man. Then Modred smote his liege hard on that helm which many a heathen sword had beaten thin, while Arthur, at one blow, striking the last stroke with Excalibur, slew him, and all but slain himself, he fell. So all day long the noise of battle rolled among the mountains by the winter sea, until King Arthur's table, man by man, had fallen in lioness about their lord, King Arthur. Then, because his wound was deep, the bold Sir Bedivere uplifted him, and bore him to a chapel nigh the field, a broken chancel with a broken cross, that stood on a dark strait of barren land. On one side lay the ocean, and on one lay a great water, and the moon was full. Then spake King Arthur to Sir Bedivere, the sequel of today unsolders all the goodliest fellowship of famous knights whereof this world holds record. Such a sleep they sleep, the men I loved. I think that we shall never more, at any future time, delight our souls with talk of knightly deeds, walking about the gardens and the halls of Camelot, as in the days that were. I perish by this people which I made, though Merlin swore that I should come again to rule once more. But let what will be, be. I am so deeply smitten through the helm that without help I cannot last till morn. Thou, therefore, take my brand Excalibur, which was my pride, for thou rememberest how in those old days, one summer noon, an arm rose up from out of the bosom of the lake, clothed in white samite, mystic, wonderful, holding the sword, and how I rode across and took it, and have worn it like a king. And wheresoever I am sung or told in after time, this also shall be known. But now delay not. Take Excalibur, and fling him far into the middle mere. Watch what thou seest, and lightly bring me word. To him replied the bold Sir Bedivere, It is not meet, Sir King, to leave thee thus, aidless, alone, and smitten through the helm. A little thing may harm a wounded man. Yet I, thy hest, will all perform it full. Watch what I see, and lightly bring thee word. So saying, from the ruined shrine he stepped, and in the moon athwart the place of tombs, where lay the mighty bones of ancient men, old knights, and over them the sea wind sang, shrill, chill, with flakes of foam. He, stepping down by zigzag paths and juts of pointed rock, came on the shining levels of the lake. There he drew forth the brand Excalibur, and over him, drawing it, the winter moon, brightening the skirts of a long cloud, ran forth and sparkled keen with frost against the hilt. For all the haft twinkled with diamond sparks, myriads of topaz lights, and jacinth work of subtlest jewelry. He gazed so long that both his eyes were dazzled as he stood, this way and that dividing the swift mind in act to throw, but at the last it seemed better to leave Excalibur concealed there in the many knotted water flags that waltzed stiff and dry about the marge. So strode he back slow to the wounded king. Then spake King Arthur to Sir Bedivere, Hast thou performed my mission which I gave? What is it thou hast seen, and what was heard? And answer made the bold Sir Bedivere, I heard the ripple washing in the reeds, and the wild water lapping on the crag. To whom King Arthur, faint and pale, Thou hast betrayed thy nature and thy name, not rendering true answer, as beseemed thy fealty, nor like a noble knight. For surer sign had followed, either hand or voice, or else a motion of the mare. This is a shameful thing for men to lie. Yet now, I charge thee, quickly go again, as thou art lief and dear, and do the thing I bade thee. Watch, and lightly bring me word. Then went Sir Bedivere the second time across the ridge, and paced beside the mare, counting the dewy pebbles fixed in thought. But when he saw the wonder of the hilt, how curiously and strangely chased, he smote his palms together, and he cried aloud, And if indeed I cast the brand away, surely a precious thing, one worthy note, should thus be lost for ever from the earth, which might have pleased the eyes of many men. What good should follow this, if this were done? What harm undone? Deep harm to disobey, seeing obedience is the bond of rule. Were it well to obey then, if a king demand an act unprofitable against himself? The king is sick, and knows not what he does. What record or what relic of my lord should be to aftertime, but empty breath and rumors of a doubt? But were this kept, stored in some treasure house of mighty kings, some one might show it at a joust of arms, saying, King Arthur's sword, Excalibur, wrought by the lonely maiden of the lake. 9 years she wrought it, sitting in the deeps, among the hidden bases of the hills. So might some old man speak in the aftertime to all the people, winning reverence, but now much honor and much fame were lost. So spake he, clouded with his own conceit, and hid Excalibur the second time, and so strode back slow to the wounded king. Then spoke King Arthur, breathing heavily, What is it thou hast seen, or what hast heard? And answer made the bold Sir Bedivere, I heard the water lapping on the crag, and the long ripple washing in the reeds. To whom replied King Arthur, much in wrath, Ah, miserable and unkind, untrue, unknightly, traitor-hearted! Woe is me! Authority forgets a dying king, laid widow of the power in his eye that bowed the will. I see thee what thou art, for thou, the latest left of all my knights, in whom should meet the offices of all, thou wouldst betray me for the precious hilt, either from lust of gold, or like a girl, valuing the giddy pleasure of the eyes. Yet for a man may fail in duty twice, and the third time may prosper. Get thee hence. But if thou spare to fling Excalibur, I will arise and slay thee with my hands. Damn right. Then quickly rose Sir Bedivere and ran, and leaping down the ridges lightly plunged among the bulrush beds, and clutched the sword, and strongly wielded it and threw it. The great brand made lightnings in the splendor of the moon, and flashing round and whirled in an arc, shot like a streamer of the northern morn, seen were seen where the moving isles of winter shock by night with noises of the northern sea. So flashed and fell the brand Excalibur, but ere he dipped the surface, rose an arm, clothed in white samite, mystic, wonderful, and caught him by the hilt, and brandished him 3 times, and drew him under in the mare. And lightly went the other to the king. Then spoke King Arthur, drawing thicker breath, Now see I by thine eyes that this is done. Speak out. What is it thou hast heard or seen? And answer made the bold Sir Bedivere, Sir King, I closed mine eyelids, lest the gems should blind my purpose, for I never saw, nor shall see, here or elsewhere, till I die, not though I live 3 lives of mortal men, so great a miracle as yonder hilt. Then with both hands I flung him, wheeling him, but when I looked again, behold an arm, clothed in white samite, mystic, wonderful, that caught him by the hilt, and brandished him 3 times, and drew him under the mare. And answer made King Arthur, breathing hard, My end draws nigh. 'Tis time that I were gone. Make broad thy shoulders to receive my weight, and bear me to the margin. Yet I fear my wound hath taken cold, and I shall die. So saying, from the pavement he half rose, slowly, with pain, reclining on his arm, and looking wistfully with wide blue eyes as in a picture. Him Sir Bedivere remorsefully regarded through his tears, and would have spoken, but he found not words. Then took with care, and kneeling on one knee, over both his shoulders drew the languid hands, and rising, bore him through the place of tombs. But as he walked, King Arthur panted hard, like one that feels a nightmare on his bed when all the house is mute. So sighed the king, muttering and murmuring at his ear, "Quick, quick, I fear it is too late, and I shall die." But the other swiftly strode from ridge to ridge, clothed with his breath, and looking as he walked, larger than human on the frozen hills. He heard the deep behind him, and a cry before. His own thought drove him like a goad. Dry clashed his harness in the icy caves and barren chasms, and all to left and right the bare black cliff clanged around him, as he based his feet on juts of slippery crag that rang sharp smitten with the dint of armed heels. And on a sudden, lo, the level lake and the long glories of the winter moon. Excusez-moi. Then saw they how hove a dusky barge, dark as a funeral scarf from stem to stern beneath them, and descending they were ware that all the decks were dense with stately forms, black stoled, black hooded, like a dream, by these three queens with crowns of gold, and from them rose a cry that shivered to the tingling stars, and as it were one voice, an agony of lamentation, like a wind that shrills all night in a wasteland where no one comes, or hath come, since the making of the world. Then murmured Arthur, "Place me in the barge." So to the barge they came. There those three queens put forth their hands and took the king and wept. But she that rose the tallest of them all and fairest laid his head upon her lap, and loosed the shattered casque, and chafed his hands, and called him by his name, complaining loud and dropping bitter tears against his brow striped with dark blood, for all his face was white and colourless, and like the withered moon smote by the fresh beam of the springing east, and all his greaves and cuses, I don't know that word, dashed with drops of onset, and the light and lustrous curls that made his forehead like a rising sun high from the dais throne were parched with dust, or clotted into points and hanging loose, mixed with the nightly growth that fringed his lips. So like a shattered column lay the king, not like that Arthur who, with lance in rest, from spur to plume a star of tournament, shot through the list at Camelot, and charged before the eyes of ladies and of kings. Then loudly cried the bold Sir Bedivere, "Ah, my lord Arthur, whither shall I go? Where shall I hide my forehead and my eyes? For now I see the true old times are dead, when every morning brought a noble chance, and every chance brought out a noble knight. Such times have been not since the light that led the holy elders with the gift of myrrh. But now the whole round table is dissolved, which was an image of the mighty world, and I, the last, go forth companionless, and the days darken round me, and the years among new men, strange faces, other minds." And slowly answered Arthur from the barge, "The old order changeth, yielding place to new, and God fulfills himself in many ways, lest one good custom should corrupt the world. Comfort thyself. What comfort is in me? I have lived my life, and that which I have done may he within himself make pure. But thou, if thou shouldst never see my face again, pray for my soul. More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of. Wherefore let thy voice rise like a fountain for me night and day. For what are men better than sheep or goats that nourish a blind life within the brain, if knowing God, they lift not hands of prayer both for themselves and those who call them friend? For so the whole round earth is every way bound by gold chains about the feet of God. But now farewell. I am going a long way, with these thou seest. If indeed I go, for all my mind is clouded with a doubt, to the island valley of Avalon, where falls not hail or rain or any snow, nor ever wind blows loudly, but in lies deep meadowed, happy, fair, with orchard lawns and bowery hollows crowned with summer sea, where I will heal me of my grievous wound. So said he, and the barge, with oar and sail, moved from the brink like some full-breasted swan, that fluting a wild carol ere her death ruffles her pure cold plume and takes the flood with swarthy webs. Long stood Sir Bedivere, revolving many memories, till the hull looked one black dot against the verge of dawn, and on the mare the wailing died away. At length he groaned, and turning slowly, clomb the last hard footstep of that iron crag, thence marked the black hull moving yet, and cried, He passes to be king among the dead, and after healing of his grievous wound, he comes again. But if he come no more, O me, be yon dark queens in you, black boat, who shriek and wailed, the three whereat we gazed on that high day, when, clothed with living light, they stood before his throne in silence, friends of Arthur, who should help him at his need. Then from the dawn it seemed there came but faint, as far from beyond the limit of the world, like the last echo born of a great cry, sounds as if some fair city were one voice around a king returning from his wars. Thereat once more he moved about and clomb, even to the highest he could climb, and saw, straining his eyes beneath an arc of hand, or thought he saw, the speck that bare the king down that long water opening on the deep somewhere far off, pass on, and go from less to less, and vanish into light. And the new sun rose, bringing the new year. And that is the passing of King Arthur. Another massive bummer. So let's give a quick shout out to everyone who stopped by to wave hello. JJ Organics, Joe Cool, Skull Asylum, Joe King, Ants, Jess Palmer, Alchemos83, and me, the Tinfoil Tea Party. Thank you all for joining me for story time. Future viewers, sorry if I brought you down. 'Tis a sad story. But anyway, much love and fair roads and travels before thee. See y'all later.